Hey there, my name is Megan and it is Veda Day 3. Veda stands for a new video every day for the month of April, and this is my third day in Veda, and I'm going to be talking about choosing a name for your baby. Tomorrow, day 4, I'm going to talk about choosing names for siblings. So if it's already past April 4th, just look down in the description box below where you can find all my links, including a link to the video on choosing a sibling name, which kind of partners well with this video. So choosing a name can be a lot of pressure. More likely than not, it's a name that your child will have his or her whole life, and it's really one of the first things we have in our identity. People want to know when a baby is born, is it a boy, is it a girl, what is his or her name, and it's just not a choice to be taken lightly, but I hope it's something that you will have a lot of fun with, because I like names, and I hope you do too. So one of the very first things that I would recommend doing is saying the name out loud, which might sound corny, but say it out loud. Think about it. Is it a name that you and your partner both like? Okay, little video bomber in the background is my Boston Terrier. He's 14 years old, and he should not be on the bed, but he is. He can be on that part right there with the blanket. So sorry for the distraction. Let's get back to the names. So, is it a name that you and your partner both like? The name is ultimately a reflection of both of you, so it should be a name that you both enjoy. And is it a name, too, that either you or your partner would have liked to have been named yourself? I think that's a really good indicator, because there's a lot of cool names that I think are really neat, but I really am glad that I am not named. So is it a name that you yourself would have liked to have had? Something people always talk about when they're talking about choosing a baby name is the teasing potential. And it is something to consider, but I also think you should take it with a grain of salt, because kids will take the most common, like plain name and, try and ruin it, rhyme it with something dumb, So if it's like a name that obviously rhymes with something, like a funny bodily function or something like that, then take that into consideration. But just know, if they want to tease them on their name, they're gonna. The next thing to think about is it a name that you can really see growing with your child. So a lot of names I know that I like are kind of these grandiose names, but they have simpler nicknames, so they can kind of work with your child as a youngster, or as a youngster, I'm like all old school now. But yeah, so when they're little, or when they're older, and the truth is you don't know what your child is going to like. Is he or she going to be a professional skateboarder? Are they going to be, a CEO of a company? So I think it's nice to have a name that maybe has a nickname, or could really just flow with any career or avocation that your child might have. So along with that, think about nicknames. There are some names I like James. I love the name James, but I don't care so much for Jim or Jamie or Jimmy. I don't dislike them, I just don't really love those as names, and I love James as much. But I know if I had a son and I named him James, someone along the way is gonna call him Jim. So for that reason, I might not use it as a first name if that really bothered me. I don't know how much that bothers me, but I just wanted to use it as an example. So name like that, there you really hate the nickname for, you might want to use that as a middle name instead. So think about that. Another thing to consider is this a name, like, for example, the future grandparents hate? Does everyone hate this name? People in your inner circle? And how important is that to you? Because ultimately, you are the one naming this child, and that's what should be most important. Your parents, more likely than not, were the ones that named you. They had their chance, and so this is your chance. So I say that, but I think if there was a name my mom really hated, it would be hard for me to go for it. So, weigh out how important it is if everyone hates the name. Think about how popular the name is. You can easily do a search. Lots of I make baby name videos. Lots of people here on YouTube make baby name videos. You can do an easy Google search on a name and see how popular it is. That I would take with a grain of salt also, because just because the name is the, 9th most popular name in the US does not mean every 9th child is named that name. So do a little bit of research on that and see how common that name is too in your particular state or area. Also, again, with saying the name out loud, I think that's just sounds kind of corny, but it really is good advice. How does the name sound with your last name? And if you're going to use a middle name, say the name with the middle name and then say it without. So lots of people I've heard, they say the full name and it sounds great, but then when you take the middle name out, the name sounds really short, or it sounds just, like syllables don't sound good together. So you can kind of get a better rhythm with it if you think about it with and without the middle name. Think about the name meaning. Lots of really great names don't have the best meanings. They mean, son of a red-beard man, or something like that. And lots of names mean things like hope or God's gift and things like that that might actually be important to you. So if it is important to you, go ahead and look up what the name means. Is this a name that is honoring someone in your family? And think about, is that a tradition that you want to keep going? Along with that, think about, is the name part of your heritage? So is this a namesake for somebody else? Or do you really want to use, for example, a name that is Irish or a name that is a biblical name? And is that something you want to carry on? Look at this little dog just acting crazy. He is determined to be on the bed in this video. He has totally video bombed me. Okay, so back to the names. Is it important to your family? Like you're a junior or you're the third, you're a trip, and you want your child to carry on that name as well. Think about the name pronunciation, and particularly associated with where the child will be growing up. So are you picking a French sounding name that's hard to say, maybe in California where not everyone speaks French? Or I like a lot of Gaelic and Gaelic names, but some of them are spelled really hard and they're not so hard to say, but they aren't pronounced the way that they look. So you might want to take that into consideration. Again, you might totally just be in love with the name and give a flying flu what people think of it. That's totally fine. It's just some things to think about and maybe have a discussion about. Is there a strong name association with that name? So think about artists that kind of can go off one name, like Britney for Britney Spears, or Mariah for Mariah Carey. So I like the name Mariah, but I think people will think oh, did you name her for Mariah Carey? Or, and does that matter to you? Again, some of these things really might not matter to you. Also, some names from literature, such as Hermione. Lots of people only became familiar with that name because of the Harry Potter series and Hermione Granger, so they might assume, oh, you guys are big Harry Potter fans, and maybe you're not. Take into consideration also if the name is unisex. Now, this is really tricky because the trend right now is going towards unisex names. So unisex could be a good or bad thing. I'm not saying either way, but lots of girls are having historically male names. So I would just punch it into Google, see how popular it is. Some people actually, I know, like having a unisex name because they think gender is fluid, and it's really just kind of based on your feelings about that. And if you really want a name that sounds definitely masculine or definitely feminine, you can go that route as well. You might want to just consider future siblings, especially if this is your first child, and for example, you really wanted a Steven, but you have a little girl and you want to go ahead and call her Stevie or Stephanie or something like that. Maybe you want to hang on to that name if you know you're going to have 2 or 3 children afterwards to see if you do get the boy later. I don't know, just something to consider. You never know what you're going to get is the thing, so you might not want to hang on to a name. Um, Next thing that's important to consider is the initials. And I used to work at a college, so I saw a lot of really interesting initial names coming in. So like BAD, not the best initials. ASS, not the best initials. And more common than you might think. So you know, there's so many beautiful things with monograms on them. You might just want to consider not giving your child initials that spell something out unless it spells something, you know, that isn't so, you know, BAD or ASS. You get what I'm saying. Also, take into consideration the spelling of the name. Someone who doesn't have the most traditional spelling of her name, it really hasn't been a problem. People do misspell my name a lot. It's Megan, Meagan, so I got the extra A in there. It's not so unusual, but it's definitely not the most popular spelling. But I have seen some really crazy spellings of the name Megan, to the point where I'm like, you know, like you feel like you're speaking like Dory in Finding Nemo. So take that into consideration. You want people to be able to recognize the name and be able to say it and not think that they're speaking a whole different language. So I think you can be creative and take some liberties, but just take your child's future in mind with that. So just kind of my closing thoughts are really, I empower you to choose a name that you truly love. And it doesn't have to be a name that I love or your parents love or anybody else. It should be one that you and your partner choose together and have fun with it. This is such a great time in your life, and if you are expecting, congratulations, and thank you so much for watching. All my links will be below, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.